Thank you, everybody, for joining in. My name is Tom Pico, and I'm the CEO of the Chamber. And we're thrilled to have you here today and helping us to kind of operate in this new world, learning how to do connectedness online. And so hope you'll find today's presentation helpful. I know you will, and we have others that we're pushing out as well. So keep in touch with us. I guess I would say to those of you on this meeting that keep in touch with the Chamber. We want to hear from you. We want to know how we can help you and how your business is operating. If you have an alternate model, we'd love to share that with the community. Check out our website at camdenrockland.com for several different platforms there, including a coronavirus updates page for business-related news and new platform we just launched yesterday on the public-facing side called Opportunity Knocks for people to go and have one-stop shopping for gift certificate purchase or making donations to nonprofit organizations. So that's a great resource as well. So then there's other things there too. So visit us at camdenrockland.com and certainly keep in touch with me too at tom@camdenrockland.com if there are things we can do to help you. So I want to turn it over to Jill Parker. Jill runs a business called Inspireal, and she's a relatively new Chamber member here in less than a year. So we're thrilled to have you, and we appreciate you stepping up and being willing to share thoughts that you have about leading people in a virtual environment, which is a very timely topic, obviously. So Jill, we'll look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for coming. I'm glad to be able to share some information with you today. I'm going to share my screen, so just bear with me for just a second while I get this going. And hopefully we have a slideshow that you can all see. And Tom's going to nod his head yes, if that's correct.
Yes, indeed.
Perfect. First of all, I did want to just let you know, since we're a fairly small group, I love interactive discussion. So if you have a question, feel free to interrupt me. I'll pause every once in a while. And certainly there's also a chat function within Zoom. If you'd prefer, you can put your question in the chat, and then Tom will interrupt me and ask that question, which he and I kind of worked out beforehand. So my name is Jill Parker. My company is Inspireal. We're a business consultancy. I'm focused on leadership coaching, team building, and training. As Tom mentioned, my business is fairly new. I've been in business about a year. I've been a Chamber member for just a little under a year. But I've led teams in large organizations such as Bank of America, a company called Fisk Solutions in Lewiston, as well as I led the call center operations for Athena Health. But my expertise really isn't in necessarily financial services or healthcare, but really in the business of leading people. And my business today is that I help small to medium-sized businesses to build teams. And that's Dobby Parker, my Chief Cuteness Officer on the screen there. He's a lot cuter than I am. I am the Chief Inspiration Officer of this one-woman operation. But when I reached out to Tom, to talk about this, I had done a similar webinar for the Lewiston Auburn Chamber, and the current situation is unprecedented, and we're not going to harp on how bizarre the whole world is as of today, but I had sort of reached out to some of the local chamber leadership to say, can we offer this kind of content, because we need to focus on what we as business owners, leaders, and community members can do about this. And, it's really something that I'm very passionate about. And it's something that I have some experience with. So I thought I could share with you today a couple of different key concepts and ideas for leading people in a virtual environment. And then, certainly, I would encourage you to continue to seek out. There's a lot of information out there about how to manage people from afar and how to create vibrant company cultures, even when everybody is sort of, far away. I saw a sign yesterday as I was walking through downtown Camden on the Baptist church that says, "Church is not canceled, it's just scattered." And I thought that was really clever. And then I was thinking about this today, and I was like, well, work is not canceled, it's just scattered. And how can we bring people together or have them feel like they're being brought together, even in a situation where they're sort of far afield? So, I think what I'd like to do today is share, some key things to focus on if you haven't thought about them already. Some of you may say, this may resonate and you're going to say, wow, this is just validation for a lot of the things I'm doing. But hopefully maybe there's one or two things or ideas from today's discussion that you can take away and say, oh, well, I really hadn't thought about that, and maybe we need to implement something. But let's face it, about 3 weeks ago, pretty much everything changed really, really quickly. For many businesses, we just sent people home or said, stop coming and work from home. And then our IT department was our friend, and we scrambled like crazy to get people the proper licensing and access and making sure that everybody was up and running, right? But it was hard in that initial time frame to really think about what are going to be the challenges of this long term. And I think the hope was, or the hope continues to be, that this won't be a long-term situation. However, as we go into what for many businesses is maybe our third or fourth week of working remotely, what's happening is you probably might be at this point seeing some of the cracks in the armor as far as the assumptions that we made that, okay, just give everybody a laptop or have them log in through their home computer and have them do their work remotely. And there's a lot more to this. It's not just about the work. It's also about the fact that daycares are closed and schools are closed and doggy daycares are closed, and there's a lot of stress. And so you have what is, trying to convert work from the office to the home environment, and then you add on all these stressors, and that can be very, very challenging for folks. It's not as easy as just saying, okay, Jim, in order to protect everybody, let's everybody stop coming to the office and just do your job from home. We really need to have some considerations for how we execute upon that. So hopefully this will resonate for all of you. So when I think about the key considerations, and you'll notice the bigger font for communication, because I think communication is going to be the key to any business's success. And I mean communication with your employees. Obviously, you need to communicate with your constituents, whether it's customers, clients, the general public, etc. But communication with your team is so critical, and we're going to focus on that quite a bit today. We'll talk a little bit about technology. We'll talk about the struggles of collaborating in a virtual environment. We'll talk about managing productivity, which it's a double-edged sword right now, and we have to be careful of that. We'll talk about culture. What does your company culture look like in the office versus everybody working remote is very, very different. And then we'll touch a little bit on stress. Sound good? Yes, let's move on. So let's just talk a little bit about technology, because there's no doubt that everyone is trying to figure out how to leverage technology to allow folks to work remotely. But there's a lot layered into that. It's not enough to just sort of say work from home. You have to make sure your current technology is equipped to handle remote work. I mean, I happen to have a couple clients who are struggling with this right now, because even though they've deployed enough licenses for folks to work via a VPN or virtual private network, it glitches, it times out. There's definitely conversations that you need to have with your technology provider, whether it's in-house or whether you outsource that, about secure connections. I heard about, one company that's a client of mine that was struggling a little bit with this because some employees were using their own hardware. And then the question was, well, are you accessing private information on that hardware? And how can you make sure that that is being protected? The same laptop that somebody is using to do data entry work for whatever their position is can't be the same one that grandpa is playing solitaire on, because you do have some challenges there with, you've got to make sure that you're securing and protecting client information. So Just keep that in mind. And that should be a conversation that if you're not already having that with whoever provides your IT, that you have that conversation. And then also think about how are folks expected to secure data and locking their workstation. Like there should be stated protection of data, just as if, when you leave your office at night, you lock the door with a key to make sure somebody can't break in and get your client's information. Now that this information maybe is being accessed in 14 different locations, there needs to be a level of security. It's your responsibility as a business to make sure of that. And I don't say this to scare anybody. I just say this is something that you want to keep in mind. The other thing is collaboration. Do you have the right tools for the team to collaborate? And that might be something that you think about talking with your IT provider, or doing some searching on the internet and looking for some tools. And we're going to talk about some of those communication tools in a little bit. The final thing on technology that I just wanted to touch on is bandwidth. And this is no joke. This is one of the biggest challenges right now, because let's face it, the whole world is probably trying to work from home right now. And I guarantee you, it's funny, when I first signed up for Spectrum at my house in Camden, Maine, they assured me, I bought the super package because I work from home, and they were like, oh, you'll always get, 100 up and 100 down. Well, I can guarantee you I'm not getting 100 up and 100 down anymore, because everybody on my block is working from home. So it's important to keep that in mind, and particularly when you have folks who maybe work in a more remote area. Sally lives out in Green, Maine, and she's got DSL with an upload speed of 3. You've got to keep that in mind, because it's not just about her trying to do her job. It's her husband, maybe, or partner is trying to do work from home. Plus, their 8th grader is trying to upload their French history or U.S. history project, and all of these things are happening at once. So one of the things that I'm recommending is that folks have each of their employees do speed tests regularly. And if there are challenges with speed, then think about ways to address that. Maybe it's a mobile hotspot. Maybe it's talking to them about the cost of upgrading. Maybe they have DSL, but they can go to something that is a little bit more reliable. But you want to talk through that with employees if they're challenged. Or it might be, working with them where they say, listen, I do data entry work. Can I do that at night when nobody else is on the computers at my house? Because during the day, I'm just trying to keep my 4-year-old occupied with Baby Shark videos, and my husband's trying to work, and my kids are trying to do their homework. But if you let me do my work from 7 p.m. till midnight, I can get that done, and I'm not going to have those bandwidth challenges. So you've got to get creative, or I would encourage you to. Another one that I heard the other day, one of my clients had one person who just absolutely does not have the bandwidth where they live for working remotely. And this person is very critical to their firm. So what they did was they worked out that there's somebody who lives relatively close by who has excellent internet, and that person is going to their house every day, and one's working on the 1st floor and one's working on the 3rd floor, and they never cross paths. But it was that sort of creativity of saying, hey, can you go to Joe's house, and Joe will work in the basement and you can work in the 2nd floor office. And it was a very creative solution. But I think one thing we're seeing with resilience here is how creative folks are getting in addressing some of these challenges. So I'm going to stop right there and see if there's any other questions regarding technology. We're going to talk more about the collaboration and communication in a minute, but I wanted to see if there are any questions. Okay, then I think we'll keep going. Tom will give me a high sign if he has a question in the chat.
Well, indeed.
Okay, good. So thinking about collaboration, one of the reasons that as businesses we all go to an office is to work with each other, right? It's not just so we can all go into our disparate offices and sit down and pretend we don't see each other. It's so that we can collaborate, and often that's in the form of meetings, or in the form of what we call the hallway conversation, right? Which so much work gets done within those confines, and now you've got folks sort of far afield, and and working separately. And that can be a little bit challenging. But now is the time, it's the perfect time for a calendar audit. You should look at all of your standing meetings, that weekly meeting, staff meeting, and maybe it's time to, think about how you communicate with your team, and should you maybe you scrap the weekly staff meeting in favor of a daily scrum or something for 15 minutes where everybody gets together and says, hey, here's what I'm working on today. You're meeting for connectivity, updates, and collaboration. And then maybe encouraging your workers, the folks who work with you, to pair up, and maybe work on stuff to keep each other accountable. I have a friend of mine who owns her own business, and where it can be, working from home as a sole proprietor can be somewhat isolating. So sometimes we Zoom and just keep the line open, so that we have somebody who's there with us, and we could be like, hey, did you hear that? Or, oh, wow, this is interesting, and that sort of thing. And maybe you can partner people up to do that sort of thing. One thing that one of my clients is doing is sending out sort of a question of the day of, getting the team to get creative about, hey, when we come back to the office, what do you guys think we should do as far as our meeting cadence? Or, trying to get folks engaged right now in sort of planning for when the world gets back to normal, because fingers crossed, the world is going to get back to normal sooner rather than later. And think about establishing a place where the team can come together to communicate and share victories and challenges. I guarantee you that folks who are working from home, who are used to working in close quarters in the work environment, while there's great freedom in working remotely, it can be isolating. And I think that, now is the time where communication, we're going to talk about that in just a minute or two, is going to be so critical, simply because folks are going to feel cut off. And if you've ever, been in a situation where, you walk into work and you find out that the staff just had a meeting and you missed the meeting, and you're like, well, what happened? Tell me everything. People will have the perception that they're missing a lot, even though they're really not. And so that's why clear communication from leadership is so important during this period. Hopefully that all makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about productivity, because, there's a lot of great articles. Harvard Business Review just wrote a great article about managing productivity in this sort of bizarre world that we live in today. The reason I wanted to talk a little bit about productivity here today is because this is one place where I think we have to be very careful. And one of the things that I've counseled a couple of my clients on is that, we want to start with an expectation of, that everybody is going to be productive, but we have to be flexible. And this really comes down to trust. And this comes down to, does my employer trust me that I'm doing a good job? And can I trust that my employer sees that, and that we have that mutual relationship based on trust? So it is important to be flexible, but make the assumption at the outset that everybody is going to work hard. One of the things that I saw that a business did, a larger business did, right after they sort of deployed all these folks to work from home, the leader sent sort of the "we're watching you" email, which was exactly what I would advise against, because it created this very punitive, hey, listen, guys, if you can't work productively from home, we could be in trouble. And if we go back to our topic of stress, I think that's probably the last thing that you want. You want folks to be accountable for their productivity, but understand there will be bumps in the road. And again, it's about that employer-employee trust. And thinking about how will you address productivity declines, but don't assume that productivity will not be as good. Therefore, you have to warn people that they need to be productive. People know they need to be productive. And the last possible thing you want to do is spur productivity through fear, because it will not work. And particularly during a national crisis such as this, I think that's probably ill-advised. Any questions, thoughts, comments? Anybody have any comments?
can put things in the chat, or I think there's an ability to raise your hand that I'm learning about in Zoom. So.
Tom, I was going to say, one of the things that I had a client actually ask me about the other day was the situation of, what do I do if I have somebody who cannot be productive at home? In other words, they have small children, they're trying to homeschool. It's a situation where, while we have offered them the opportunity to work from home, it does not look like they are going to be able to. And, I encouraged this client to work through that with the employee and try and identify if there were schedule changes or modifications. Could this person maybe work on the weekend when their partner was home to watch the children if they were doing things that didn't require them to be, 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. And once all of that sort of flexibility is exhausted, then I think you need to make decisions with that person collaboratively. In other words, that's when you determine, well, would it make sense to furlough that person so they could collect unemployment, with the understanding that you'd like to have them back once the conclusion of this. So again, and I didn't say it at the outset, but what's most important is to lead with humanity during this type of situation, and understand that, one size does not fit all for managing a remote team, for sure. And you're going to have those bumps in the road.
Absolutely. I think with, people with young children also trying to be a teacher and also keep their job, it's a very real challenge for a lot of people.
That's right. So let's talk about the biggest topic, which is communication. Your team needs to hear from you. If you are a leader or a member of a team, or somebody who is very, in a position to lead people, your team needs to hear from you now more than ever. And the communication should be two-way. It was interesting. I was talking to a friend who works for a company of 450 people out of state, not in Maine. And the first email that they got from their CEO regarding COVID was yesterday. And she said that the last 3 weeks have been sort of this vacuum of everybody waiting to hear from their leadership. And it was just very, very, this leader would say something, or this leader, but the overall leader of the organization had not yet addressed the company to say, hey, I understand what you're going through, and that sort of thing. And that is so important. And the other part of it is that communication should be two-way. There should be a mechanism for folks to give you feedback. We talk about whenever you're communicating with a team, to stay positive, but keep it real. We all know this is not sunshine and roses right now. I think it's important to stay positive, but keep it real. Be honest about challenges. If it looks like, maybe there's going to be a slowdown because some clients are sort of not going to be using your services for the foreseeable future, I think you have to be honest about that. But again, share successes with your team as well.
Jill, we do have a question in the chat. And it is, how do you build connection in a team that did not start working together in person? Say someone is new, is added to an existing team. So.
That's a great question. And whether you're managing the team remotely or managing a team in the office, the integration of new people is so important. And I would recommend certainly some sort of virtual, whether it's a Zoom call like this. Zoom is free for up to, I'm not even sure how many participants, but and then it's very low cost. And I would recommend something where, video on, everybody introduces themselves, maybe an icebreaker where you talk about, my nickname in high school was this, and my favorite song was this by Pearl Jam. And then you find out that Helen in accounting really likes Motley Crue, and that's really cool. And, stuff like that. And then another thing is maybe you do some profiles where you have each person on the team maybe write up their profile, but maybe it's a funny profile of, my favorite food is spaghetti, and I live in such and such Maine, and my pet is this, and everybody does the profile, and then you circulate everybody's profiles and start to talk about different things about each other so folks can learn until in the absence of being able to meet each other in person. And then one other idea that I really thought was kind of cool was this idea of, partnering people up on teams. So really what I would do is, let's say Tom and I work together and I'm new. Tom's job is to find out everything about me, and then we're going to have a staff meeting on Friday and Tom's going to tell everybody everything he learned about me, and vice versa, or something like that. And there's lots of creative ways to do that. I think, leveraging technology, if you have either Google Teams or Slack is another platform. And certainly if you use like a private Facebook group, even for your business, you can have a chat where folks can engage throughout the day via instant message, which might be an option as well. I know some teams use that for collaboration, although it can get a little crazy. So I always caution people, be careful.
Right. This questioner also added that his team's in rural Maine, so sometimes the technology is a challenge, like Zoom meetings and that kind of thing. But I wondered if maybe there you could even record a video and share it, just to share about yourself rather than having that happen in real time as another option. But any other ideas you have where technology is a challenge too, he was asking about. So.
Yeah, I think that's a very real challenge. One of the, when you have folks who maybe don't have the bandwidth that they need, it really does become very, very challenging. But like you said, if you could do even a video at the beginning of every week with your message, or each person does a video every week, because maybe it's easier to download a video than it is to be participating in Zoom and that sort of thing. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, you can think about deploying, is there a remote cellular hotspot that might be an option. As a leader in recognizing people, I always talk to my clients about recognizing and thanking people. I'm going to talk about that in a sec when I talk about email communication, is the importance of thanking people for their hard work and their resilience during challenging times. And I encourage all of my clients, if they want to recognize somebody, to send them a letter in the mail, like via snail mail, because there's nothing more special than opening up. You get happy mail. I mean, what do you get in your mailbox? I get bills and junk. And even I don't get bills anymore because I do everything online, so I get junk. So the idea of pulling out an envelope that has a thank you note from my boss or my coworker saying, hey, thanks for the hard work you did, that's pretty special and pretty impactful. So just an idea that I've encouraged my clients to do is to think about utilizing the U.S. mail service to recognize or even communicate with folks. Obviously, email is the way everybody communicates, but don't underestimate. And I actually have a blog. If you go to my website, I have a blog called The Power of a Personal Note, which I would encourage you to read, which talks about just the importance of really recognizing people in words specific to them, whether it's via email or regular mail. So communication, I just wanted to touch on this and give you some just ideas. Now this is, I have on here an example of a team update, but there's a couple key things that when you're emailing regularly with your team or communicating regularly with your team, start with a thank you. An expectation of, listen, I'm going to send out these memos once a week, but thank you so much for being so flexible and adaptable during this difficult times. Then maybe give an update of how it's working. Successfully, we've got 94% of the team that's working remote, and everything seems to be going well despite some glitches, right? Then maybe provide a business outlook. Our workload is still strong. We have a great opportunity to continue to operate for our clients. Express confidence that everybody is working hard, basically saying, thank you again, that I trust that you're all working hard from home. And I think that's so important. And then again, rolling out a strategy for connectivity going forward, telling the team what to expect. Because one of the things that I hear a lot from end users who've been deployed remotely is, I don't know when we're going to have meetings. Like the boss just calls a meeting and all of a sudden it's everybody get on Zoom. That unpredictability can cripple people when they're in a situation where they are working remote, because sometimes it takes a little, they've got to do some other things at home in order to make sure that they can be ready for those meetings. So now is not the time for you to be, saying, oh, let's have a surprise 9:15 meeting today. I think people will operate in a more predictable manner if you said, listen, we're going to meet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:15. In the event that we don't have anything to cover, we'll cancel the meeting and we'll let you know by 9. That type of predictability is something people savor right now in an unpredictable world. This is, within your communication, whether it's a daily meeting or whether it's a weekly meeting or in email communication, tell a client story or share some good news about the business. I think that's important for folks to realize that everything they're working for is not for naught. That, maybe it's, hey, I ran into Joe from whoever the other day, and he said he really appreciates that we're all working so hard. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is when I'm out in the world, which I try not to get out in the world that much, but I happened to be at Hannaford today, and I was picking up a prescription for someone, and I noticed the person in front of me said to the pharmacist, hey, thanks for all you do. I know this is hard. We all appreciate it. And I think that, I'm sure that you're hearing more of that, because I think everybody has a lot of gratitude for those who are working so hard. So I think if you can share that with your team, I think that's humongous. And then start to set the stage for what's going to happen when the team is back together. Maybe it's, hey guys, once this is all over, I can't wait. We're going to have a big team meeting and we're going to celebrate our success once we're all back in the office, pizza and beer on me or whatever. But certainly set the stage for we're going to be back together again soon with that positivity, and then thank them again. I cannot stress enough how important it is to thank your team and to be real. So here we are in a web conference. This is what I think I look like on a web conference. That's what I actually usually look like on a web conference, because, we're not always perfect. So I think if you're using something like Zoom or WebEx, or there's a couple other utilities out there for web conferencing, I think you should set expectations for video on, because it's a lot more engaging. If we're talking, I think when folks have video off, sometimes they're talking to the dog, or, I was actually facilitating a web conference the other day and I was watching a guy who was on his phone talking to somebody else. And I'm like, well, turn your video off, because, certainly if you want folks to be engaged in that web conference, you should have video on. Trying different activities. Maybe it is an icebreaker. Maybe you do use the chat function, but you want to make sure some guardrails are up. Make it informative and fun. It doesn't all have to be, okay, well, the reason for today's meeting is I wanted to give you the third quarter outlook. It's also, hey, how's everybody doing? And make it interactive. I think that's important. And set expectations, obviously, for obvious appropriate attire. Now, that may mean people are a little more casual right now, but, it's fine if folks are a little bit more casual, but you also want to make sure, you're on a conference call, somebody doesn't look like they just rolled out of bed. Any questions or thoughts on that before we move on?
Jill, I just wanted to go back to the conversation we're having about people working in a remote area. I honestly don't know if this is a potential solution, but I did want to at least share that I've seen the University of Maine has, I think, about 150 Wi-Fi hotspots around the state, where they're encouraging students they could drive there and hook up to Wi-Fi from their car and study. And I honestly don't know if that's an option for the general public as well, but it'd be worth Googling that and just seeing if that might be another way to get connected for people who are having a hard time.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. I didn't know about that. One of the things I just wanted to touch on is if you have a smaller business, I've seen this deployed successfully, is, a private Facebook group can even be a way for a team to collaborate. One of my clients actually has set one up. It's a private Facebook group, so nobody can join and nobody can even see the Facebook group except for the individuals in the Facebook group. And they use it just for communicating non-privileged information, because obviously security is important, but really more for that connectivity. Maybe it's, that folks are using it to say, hey, we're going to have a quick call, or, we just landed this deal, or the weather's going to be bad on Thursday. You can use polls. You can say, hey, guys, what time do you think we should have the daily meeting, and that sort of thing. So there is, you can leverage, even if you don't have access to a ton of technology, because some of my clients I've talked to, they're like, listen, I don't have an IT team, and I don't have a ton of extra resources and capital to be buying, 40 Slack licenses or, 15 WebEx licenses or whatever, but I do want to find a way that we can, basically stay engaged with each other and share, pictures of what's happening in our house and stuff like that. And so some folks are using these private Facebook groups as a social avenue for the team, in order for, everybody posted on Tuesdays, everybody posts pictures of their dog, and on Wednesdays, everybody posts pictures of their kids, and on Thursdays, everybody posts pictures of the weather where they are and that sort of thing. And it's just a way to get folks engaged. I will tell you that I've had one or two clients be like, well, won't that be a huge productivity suck? And again, I think it's important to focus on that trust, and trust that folks are working hard, and that they do need, if you think about it, if they were in the office, somebody walking by your desk, you're more likely to engage. And some companies, have found that productivity increases when people work remote because of the lack of distractions. So don't discount the ability to engage socially, which is something we all enjoy doing, I think, at work to some degree. Any other questions right now?
Nothing there yet.
Okay. So let's talk a little more about culture and engagement. Focusing on ways to maintain connectivity and celebrating success. And like I said, some of those communication avenues. This is a great time to create a new recognition program, or some way to recognize folks for their hard work. This is also a great time to say, hey, every Friday we're going to have the Ask Jill moment, where you can send me any question about anything that's happening within the business, and I will address it to everybody via email or on our weekly Zoom call or whatever that might be. Now is not the time to disengage. Now is the time to engage and look at ways that you can recognize folks who are really going above and beyond, folks who are getting it done despite, significant challenges, and then also a way to have people share with you how things are going. And don't think you have to take it all on yourself. I have one client who's like, Jill, I don't have a creative bone in my body, so I can't come up with this stuff. And I'm like, yes, but you must have somebody on your team who has that creativity. And, we identified who that person was, and next thing you know, that person was pairing everybody up, and they were doing this email exchange to get to know you, and they had created a survey of everybody. And one of the blog that I had done and a recommendation they actually ended up doing as an icebreaker, which is this idea of going across your whole team and asking them to share their favorite songs that get them pumped up or excited in the morning. And then what this person did on my recommendation was, sharing with everybody. So you find out that Tom Pico is just crazy about, Kiss or something like that. And then they put together a Spotify playlist, which was the team playlist, which they shared with everybody so that everybody could access the playlist. And then on Fridays, it would be like, all right, everybody cue up your Team Parker playlist. And it was a way for people to feel connected even when they weren't. Because let's face it, that connection is what everyone is really, really hungry for right now in business and personally, and we're sort of starved of it. On the topic of stress, don't don't underestimate the amount of stress your team is under. You're under a lot of stress. We're all under a lot of stress. So it's important to be understanding and not be a jerk. You have to run your business. You have to be successful. You have to, there's going to be tough choices that you may need to make, but you've got to lead with heart, not by fear. The words "I understand" will serve you so well, and your team will always remember how you led during these times. If you lead a team and you are trying to lead a team the same way you did when all 12 of them came into the office every day, and don't adapt, it's going to be challenging. There's got to be that adaptation of saying, I understand things are challenging right now, but I appreciate your hard work and I want to help you work through some of those challenges and do it with humanity. And if something happens and business slows and you need to make those tough decisions, you can do that with transparency. And again, it comes down to trust. It comes down to trusting your workers and that they can handle it, and trusting that them trusting that you're making the decision based on what you can do. Hopefully that makes sense. So there's a ton of lessons to be learned here. I think, when folks started to have folks work from home, I think there, certainly if you didn't always have a remote workforce, it was a little scary. Hopefully what you're seeing, and I think a lot of businesses are seeing right now, is that there are benefits like increased flexibility for team members. And I think there's a lot of organizations that once this crisis is over, they may look at that as a benefit, that maybe they say to folks, hey, 2 days a month you can work from home. So when the oil burner guys come into your house, you can work remotely. So it might be a benefit that you offer to your employees going forward. I think it's gonna, this will also change the way we handle snow days. It used to be, snow days, everything, oh gosh, the office is closed and nobody's working today. Well, as we've learned, is we can quickly deploy folks to work from home. Maybe that gives you some further flexibility during those weather events. I know of a couple of organizations that were thinking of, expanding their brick and mortar footprint, and now they're saying, well, if I could deploy folks to work remotely a couple days a week, I might be able to increase my staffing without the larger workplace footprint. There is the very real opportunity for productivity gains without the office distraction. Before I became a consultant, I led the Belfast call center for Athena Health, as well as our call center in the Philippines. And we really hesitated for years and years to allow people to work from home because we were very concerned it was going to be a culture killer and folks were not going to be as productive. And what we found is when we deployed a remote team that they were actually more productive because they didn't have the office distraction of meetings and hallway conversations and people stopping by their desk and that sort of thing. And it allowed us to even increase our trust with our employees. The challenges, are very real. There's a lot of distractions at home. You've got the internet bandwidth challenges. There's isolation and disengagement, which we've talked a lot about today. That's why communication and collaboration is so important. And it is important that one of the things, the traps that you don't fall into, and if you take nothing else away from this, I would encourage you to make sure that there are verbal conversations, whether or not they're video conversations. There are verbal conversations and meetings with your team, not just email. I think we rely so much on email, but when you're trying to communicate a message to your people or to your teammates, I think that there is a lot that can be misunderstood through written communication that might be more beneficial if that message was delivered passionately or, very, very caringly through a live conversation. And I think just in today's day and age, we all rely on email and text so much. But I think it's important to consider, was particularly if you're communicating something very important to your team, to use either a video call or some sort of even conference technology, just to even get on the phone. So I've included in the deck just some different resources that you can use, and I sent this deck to Tom so he can get it out to anybody who is interested in it. But I'd love to open it up to questions at this point, or see if anybody has any other thoughts or challenges or things that I didn't talk about today.
All right, any other questions for Jill while we have her? This has been a great presentation. And again, as she said, I have it. I can email out to everyone that's been on this. So, and we are recording this as well. So we'll make the presentation available on our website later on too. So.
And please feel free, check out my website. I do a blog. I haven't done a blog recently, but just the last couple of weeks, because I've been pretty active in kind of delivering this content. But there's a couple blogs on there about team communication, which you might find helpful as well. Was there a question in the chat?
I just said no questions, but thank you. So.
Oh, okay.
So appreciative of the presentation. So.
Excellent. Well, and my email address is there too. So if there's a question that anybody has, or some thoughts or ideas, or you even just want to talk more about the topic, certainly reach out to me via email. And, you know, one of the things that I'm really focused on right now is, I think for all of us, we kind of try and find our way to be useful. And for me right now, you know, I'm used to being in workplaces, training and consulting and that sort of thing. So if I can share ideas or even help you brainstorm ways to maintain connectivity with your team, I'm happy to do so. So please feel free to reach out.
Super. Thank you very much, Jill. And thanks for everybody for being on this Zoom meeting, and keep in touch with us at the Chamber if there's other ideas you have for other webinars that we might do on topics that would be helpful, or other ways that we can support you, especially during this crazy time. So thanks everybody for being here.
Thanks, Tom. Have a good day.
Thanks.